If you're in need of a little artistic inspiration, you can usually find bucket loads of incredible talent just a few clicks away. Having such a goldmine at your fingertips can feel slightly overwhelming though, so I've rounded up some of the most creative people with seriously next level skills for your viewing pleasure. Thank me later. The humble pencil is a trusty instrument used by a whole range of creative geniuses, but Russian sculptor and artist Salvat Fadai sees the pencil as the art form itself. With some major concentration and the most delicate hand, Fadai uses sharp scalpels to carve away the graphite as if he were working with chunks of wood. In his most impressive creations, Fadai works with the sharp tip of the pencil itself to create anything from tiny ice cream cones to SpongeBob. Of course, when working with such a brittle material, things don't always go to plan, so this art form requires a whole load of patience. To most people, paper is the canvas art is made on. Turkish artist Sina Runa, however, turns paper into the art itself by creating dynamic and colorful sculptures with a whole host of origami-like elements. By intricately twisting, folding, and stacking layers of colorful craft paper using tweezers, Runa slowly turns this traditional 2D medium into eye-popping 3D sculptures which look like delicate illustrations come to life. Runa left the corporate world to devote herself to these quilled paperworks full-time in 2015, and she's even written a whole book on the art form. Of all the things you might consider making art out of, the fruit and veg from your own kitchen probably isn't one of them. Self-taught sculptor Vincenzo Scarucci sees the untapped potential in these humble food products as he uses various knives and scalpels to scoop out their fleshy insides and turn these everyday objects into insane natural sculptures. Among many other things, Scarucci has turned avocados into bunny rabbits or puzzles and transformed apples into pop culture legends, proving that fruit and veg is about as versatile as it gets. Good luck beating him in a pumpkin carving contest at Halloween though. Takehiro Kishimoto is another artist who likes to play with his food. Kishimoto practices the ancient art of Thai fruit carving, or Kai Salak Palamai, which was once showcased at most major events and high-profile banquets. With incredible skill and a steady hand, Kishimoto is able to turn all kinds of fruit and veg into incredibly decorative floral displays. Kishimoto doesn't stop there though. In his most impressive works, he turns everyday food into insane, interactive puzzles. It's a shame none of them will stick around for very long though. About the work of Felix Semper, you might think you're looking at any old sculpture, but each one of Semper's pieces has a hidden secret. They can stretch to insane lengths before snapping right back into shape again. Using thousands of layers of glued paper, books, cards, and recycled material arranged in an accordion-like structure, Semper has created anything from Yeezy sneakers to soda bottles and bags of Lay's which seem to melt to the touch. Now those are some seriously forbidden snacks. Makeup is a growing online art form, and tons of talented individuals have proven that it can be so much more than just a bit of lipstick and mascara. Take a look at Vanessa Davis, for example, who uses her own face as a canvas for some seriously mind-blowing artistic transformations. Sometimes Davis uses makeup and face paint to create her own uncanny renditions of famous artworks, while other times she uses 3D elements and accessories to transform her head into anything from a zombie pizza slice to a skeleton pineapple. There's no telling what form Davis will take next. Multiple personalities never looked so chic. While Davis's face is her own art form, Ivory Coast artist Letitia Kai relies on her hair as her creative outlet. Kai began exploring hair as a creative medium in 2017, and her series of enthralling hair sculptures soon gained her some serious social media notoriety. By turning her hair into anything from a pair of hands to a broken heart, or even a map of Africa, Letitia Kai attempts to stand up against stereotypical notions of beauty, especially by encouraging women of color to embrace their natural gifts. If you had any doubts about Kai's incredible talent, ask yourself, when was the last time you were able to skip using only your own hair? Pottery is another art form that's all too easily overlooked. But Cami Meerdink, who goes by the name Piper Pottery online, aims to demonstrate the beauty of the craft by combining it with the natural world. In her work, Meerdink is able to fuse her two passions together by using leaves to create beautiful imprints in each of her hand-thrown pieces, from bowls to outdoor decorations. Each freshly cut leaf is pressed firmly into the soft clay to leave a lasting impression of nature's beauty once carefully peeled off. Cami Meerdink isn't the only one to recognize the satisfying results that can be gained by marrying art with nature. Take a look at this skilled worker who uses the unconventional material of large banana leaves to create a perfect cast out of sand and cement, which will later make a killer water feature. Once it's set, the amazingly accurate 3D leaf can be painted, varnished, and then transformed into a statement piece fit for any garden. Who needs next level carving skills when nature has all the tools you need? Speaking of incredible carving, nothing could be quite as soul-satisfying as watching the work of wood sculptor Cameron Porter, who turns blocks of wood into dynamic sculptures that look smoother than a baby's butt. Porter began his career as an animator and even worked on shows like The Simpsons before turning his attention to a more physical medium. Porter breathes new life into rough chunks of wood by meticulously carving, sanding, and even blowtorching his creations to give them a professional finish. He's like the last airbender, but with wood instead. Plenty of artists like to challenge themselves by selecting unconventional materials which aren't easy to work with, and sand is definitely not everyone's cup of tea. An artist by the name of Falling in Sand defies sand's messy reputation by managing to create artworks that most wouldn't even be able to create with pencils or paint. Using nothing but sand, each piece is meticulously crafted by layering millions of grains of colored sand using a precision tool which helps build each portrait from the ground up. You can even order a customized portrait from their website. Just beware, do not shake. Colorado-based artist Brandon Rowland has made a name for himself over the past 15 years with his captivating dot art. Rowland is fascinated by the simple nature of dot work and the potential to create incredible artwork by placing colorful globs of paint in scaled mathematical patterns. Rowland was inspired by the colorful dots that typically adorn indigenous didgeridoos and has used millions of dots of varying shapes and sizes to create deeply satisfying neon masterpieces. Creating a portrait using plain old paint is so last century. Just ask Stephen Paul Judd, who created this immense artwork using 20,068 dice. Yes, dice. The portrait, which depicts the Native American icon Sitting Bull, was unveiled on December 15, 2019, on the anniversary of the Hunkpapa Lakota leader's death in 1890. Even trying to imagine how Judd went about mapping out the image using combinations of numbered dice is totally mind-boggling. They say the eyes are the window to the soul, and 21-year-old Slovakian makeup artist Lucia Perisova, or Gemini Brush on Instagram, takes that to the extreme by transforming her eyes with a touch of the fantastical. From clean-cut geometric shapes to trippy optical illusions and perfect renditions of classic art pieces, Perisova explores the way we see the world and how that reflects back on us. With Gemini Brush around, any influencer rocking a classic smoky eye would have to hang their head in shame. Paper is one of the most delicate materials out there, and artist Masayo Fukuda uses that to her advantage with her incredibly skillful sculptures which are cut from a single sheet of the stuff. The Japanese art of paper cutting, traditionally known as kiri, requires immense skill and a seriously steady hand, and can be traced way back to around 700 AD. Fukuda has been practicing the art for 25 years, and every single tiny detail in each of her pieces is created by cutting negative space from white paper before contrasting it against a black background. On first glance, something like this might seem like a scene from an art house horror movie. This bizarre sight is actually the work of Mexican hyperrealist sculptor Ruben Orozco Loza, who creates terrifyingly believable human sculptures using silicon molds. Loza is completely self-taught and has devoted the past decade to studying every nuance and imperfection of the human face so that each sculpture is as lifelike as possible. Loza uses resin, paint, synthetic hair, and a whole host of tools to bring each face to life, and the most satisfying or cringe-inducing stage of the process has got to be popping in the glass eyeballs. Smaller sculptures can take a couple of months to complete, while his biggest works can take 6 months in total. Definitely wouldn't want to wake up in the night to one of these in your bedroom. Which of these insanely talented individuals inspired you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.